What's going on, everybody? Biatch here, and I got some interesting things to share with you guys today. UK book retailer Waterstones posted George R. R. Martin's original plot for The Song of Ice and Fire. For those of you who don't read the books, A Song of Ice and Fire is what the series is called. HBO just took the title of the first book and made that the show. They did the same thing with True Blood. Shout out goes to Mr. Toyumi for bringing it to my attention. You are awesome, thank you very much. Now, it was posted on Twitter, and I would love to link it to you in the description below, but the page has since been taken down. However, I was able to get some of the pictures of the first outline. I will be posting it on my Facebook, so feel free to check it out there. But I'm just gonna go over this right now, because I think half of this shit is funny as fuck, and I can never in a million years see things go down this way in the story. Maybe the Daenerys one, but not so much the others. Okay, so let's get right into it. I'm gonna start off with what remains the same in his original outline. In the original, Ned Stark's faith remains the same, but it's kind of different. In the original outline, Ned goes to King's Landing, investigates Jon and Arryn's death, Robert dies, Joffrey has Ned executed for treason. The only difference here is that Ned gets Arya and Catelyn out of King's Landing before he dies. In what we got, Arya watches his execution, and then Yoren gets her out, but Catelyn was out of King's Landing before he dies, in time to, capture Tyrion and all that crap. I believe that in this version, Arya was never meant to travel around with the Hound or even go to Braavos, but I'll get to that towards the end. But to recap, Ned Stark's original plot was to remain the same as it is in the books, but the only difference is Catelyn escapes King's Landing in time before his execution with Arya. Sansa, on the other hand, changes, but not a lot. Remember in Season 1 when she was all over Joffrey's cock, but in the last 2 episodes she starts to hate him? Well, in Martin's original outline, Sansa does love him and want to marry him and have his kids, but it's a decision she later on regrets. So in this version, Sansa ends up getting married with Joffrey with no mention of Margaery Tyrell coming in and marrying him instead, and Sansa goes as far as choosing Joffrey over her own family, which I thought was very unlike her. But the one thing I noticed that does stay the same is Tyrion befriending her, which he does in the version we got. And here's the thing, I really can't see Sansa actually choosing Joffrey over her own family, that's insane. But Martin does say that there will be one member of each house to betray their own family in some way, meaning that there will be one member of House Stark and Lannister to betray their house for their own selfish reasons, Tyrion and Sansa being the ones. Now, even though the last two were different, these next ones are insanely different. In the original outline, Robb Stark is still in the story as the older brother, and he does call his banners in rebellion, but it does play out differently. Robb does win a series of victories, as he does in our version, but in the original outline, he kills Joffrey on the battlefield, but in the end, he will not be able to stand up against Tyrion and Jaime Lannister and their allies, who later on kill him. After Robb's death, Tyrion burns down Winterfell. So, for a minute, imagine Joffrey and Robb Stark fighting each other, and personally, I can kind of see it as a Mortal Kombat match, because it says that Robb maims Joffrey, and I'm going to assume it's with a spear or something, because it doesn't go into too much detail how he kills him, but that could be Robb's fatality move. And Tyrion burning down Winterfell, it's pretty insane, and very out of character from what we got. There is no mention of the Boltons or the Freys in the original outline either. So, basically, the premise is the same, but the characters are swapped and personalities are changed. And here is where it starts to get really fucking weird. So, it goes on to say that Jon Snow does join the Night's Watch and eventually replaces his uncle Benjen as commander, but in the original outline, Catelyn, Arya, and Bran escape Winterfell with Lannister men chasing them, and when they arrive at the Wall, the Night's Watch have to turn them away because of their vows and shit. Bran gets pissed off about this, but Arya is a bit more understanding, leading her to realize her feelings for Jon. Yes, Arya and Jon fall in love, but are tormented about this throughout the entire series until the final book, when Jon's true parentage is revealed. So yeah, Arya and Jon, ugh. But I will say that their ages are probably changed to match Arya with Jon's age, so... And his true parentage, that theory, I'm gonna assume it's still in there too. And it goes on to say that after the Night's Watch turned them down for safe refuge, they go further north beyond the Wall where they encounter Mance Rayder and the White Walkers. Catelyn dies at the hands of the White Walkers, while Arya uses Needle, and Bran uses magic and their direwolves to survive. Some of what we got stay the same. I assume Jon does give Needle to Arya as a gift, as he did in the first season and book. Bran does enter into a coma, as he did in the book, have the green dreams and all that, and is even able to wield magic, which is kind of cool. And for those of you wondering, there is no mention of Hodor at all. Sorry. And finally, the last thing I'm going to mention is the drastic change to Dany's original story. In that version, Dany is still across the Narrow Sea, so we can assume the whole thing with the Targaryens and Robert's Rebellion was the original concept as planned. Dany does marry Khal Drogo in this, but she and her brother Viserys start to figure out that Khal Drogo really has no intention of invading Westeros. Out of frustration, Viserys keeps annoying him about it until Khal Drogo has enough and kills him. Remember in Season 1, the Golden Crown death? I'm going to assume that stays here too. However, the difference here is that Dany hates Drogo for what he's done to her brother and eventually kills Drogo and flees with a trusted friend. I assume that person is Jorah Mormont. As she flees from the Dothraki who want to kill her for what she's done, she eventually finds several dragon eggs in the wilderness. Now, it doesn't go into too much detail, but it does say that the power of the dragon will allow her to get the Dothraki to bend to her will so she can invade Westeros with that huge army, which will happen in the second book in the original planned trilogy. Now, there's a lot more in these papers too. For example, Jaime goes on a murdering spree to sit on the Iron Throne, and in the process blames his brother Tyrion for all of it, which does lead to Tyrion's exile. Martin's original plot for these books are just weird and crazy, but I'm kinda glad we got what we did instead of this. I'm going to upload them on my Facebook right now if you guys want to check it out, but I highly recommend it because it is a good read and it's fun to reflect on what was changed and what should have changed, you know? But I will say this now. I do like the changes that we got because it seems like some of the characters aren't as cool as they are in our version. For example, Arya. The Arya we got is a total badass. Even though she isn't one of my favorites, I feel as though giving her a love interest would kind of diminish her character a little bit. Now, before any idiot in the comment section calls me a feminist for saying this, I'm not, but this is just my personal opinion. In Martin's original version, it seems like Arya and Jon's relationship would give her an extra bit of importance in the story, and quite frankly, I think that's kinda dumb. What makes Arya so great is that she doesn't really need a man's affection to complete her as a character, you know? She's fine the way she is now. So I'm glad Arya was changed, and Jaime too for that matter. I like Jaime as a cool brother to Tyrion and not that much of a cock, you know? Tyrion was also toned down a bit too, and their douchey personalities were given over to Ramsay and Walder Frey. And just in case some of you were wondering, because the original plan was to have a trilogy of books, I don't think the other great houses played a big role in the story. There are no mention of Martells, Tyrells, or even Greyjoys. No mention of Baelish or Stannis neither. It was supposed to follow 5 main characters who would survive throughout the trilogy, those being Dany, Tyrion, Arya, Jon, and Bran. By the way, if you do happen to read it and notice the blacked out lines on the last page, apparently those lines tell of Dany using the dragons to grab a new army of Dothraki and invade Westeros. For those of you who have read the 5th book through, you know what that may imply. But let me know what you guys think, leave your thoughts below, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.